Diliang 618, April. Qingfeng View, Qingshan County, Backyard Kitchen. In front of the long wooden table, Chen Mu took a bite of the multi-grain vegetable cake. The rough texture made him grin. He is not from this world. In his previous life, he was a mediocre common man who was afraid of otaku. When he woke up, he changed his skin to a different place, and used his corpse to travel to this place. Formerly known as Chen Mu, he was a poor scholar who made a living by writing portraits. This is not his home is in Qingshan County at the foot of the mountain. I came to King Fengagwen to make money by copying scriptures for Taoist temples. The predecessor had been here for 2 days. For some unknown reason, when he woke up, his consciousness disappeared, so Chen Mu would occupy the magpie's nest for the dove. Cheng Ming, your master hasn't come back yet. An old Taoist in his 50s was chatting while washing dishes. The other party's surname is He, and he is a Taoist from King Fengagwen Fire. Hearing the question, an 8 or 9-year-old little Taoist boy beside Chen Mu said vaguely, "No. Hey, it seems that the evil spirit who borrowed the corpse to bring back his soul is quite fierce." Hideoran squinted at Chen Mu. "Chen Mu. Did you know, it is said that the person who suffered the evil this time was a poor scholar. When he woke up, he felt like a different person. He couldn't write well, couldn't speak well, and the neighbors didn't know anyone, so the villagers discovered the flaw." Hideoran he lowered his voice and whispered to Chen Mu with a meaningful expression on his face. "Chen Mu. Why are you telling me this? I do not want to hear." Chen Mu pulled the corners of his mouth with all his might, and gave the other party a polite but not embarrassing smile. "Master is the best." Cheng Ming raised his head and swallowed the vegetable cake in his mouth, proudly saying, "That's right, no matter how powerful the evil is, it's just a matter of fire." "You say so?" Hideoran raised his eyebrows at Chen Mu and said with a relaxed expression. "Chen Mu. You wouldn't be discovered as soon as you walked in, would you?" Chen Mu glanced at the 8 or 9-year-old Daoist boy. "Well, this one can be easily thrown down." He looked at the chubby and stout Daoist fire worker. "Well, this one really can't be beat." Just when Chen Mu didn't know if it was time to carry the bucket and run away, Daoran he lowered his head to wash the dishes again. Chen Mu let out a long breath. "However, evil? What the hell?" A series of unfamiliar memories emerged from the depths of my mind. There have been legends of gods and ghosts in this world since ancient times. The surrounding is always accompanied by a strange event called a kind of evil. Some people died inexplicably, some disappeared mysteriously, and some people's temperament changed greatly and they didn't recognize their parents. These inexplicable and incomprehensible things are all classified as evil events. This is not uncommon in the Daliang Kingdom, and there are even people in the government yamen who specialize in managing such events. And the way to deal with people whose temperament has changed drastically and is possessed by evil spirits is really a matter of fire burning them to death. You mustn't let people find out that you have changed the core. Chen Mu thought while biting the hard and dry multi-grain vegetable cake. King Fengagwen Library. Sending away the Cheng Ming little Taoist boy who led the way, Chen Mu stared at the Taoist scriptures on the desk and worried. The world has changed, and the language and characters are different. If he hadn't inherited his predecessor's memory, he wouldn't even know a word. Perhaps inheriting the writing ability of the predecessor? After all, from memory, it seems that it is not very difficult to write with a brush. With the slightest luck, Chen Mu picked up the brush, dipped it in ink, and wrote 3 big characters, the roots of the cause. Looking at Fang Zheng's 3 big characters, Chen Mu's face became bitter. This word looks okay, but compared with its predecessor, it is a few years behind. Anyone with a little knowledge can see the difference at a glance. The handwriting has changed drastically, the behavior is suspicious, and the corpse is revived. Why does it sound so familiar? If you really want to be determined to be invaded by evil spirits, isn't that the end of the calf? Chen Mu couldn't help looking at his right wrist. Is it possible that I have to give myself a disability? Thinking of those people who were burned to death because of evil possessions in his memory, Chen Mu couldn't help shivering. I don't want to be burned to death. As long as you find a suitable angle to fall and your palms land in a confrontational posture, the wrist cartilage can easily be bruised and bruised. Wrist injury, it is inevitable that the handwriting will change greatly. Chen Mu thought to himself. Be on the safe side, or just break your arm. Chen Mu gritted his teeth and thought hard. Just when he was about to get up and go out, find a suitable angle to perform breaking his arm on the ground. Suddenly there was a flash in front of him. A translucent grey wall suddenly appeared in front of him. Chen Mu subconsciously stretched out his hand and pushed forward, and with a single stroke, he passed through the wall. What the hell? After a long while, Chen Mu reacted. The iron-grey towering wall that occupies the entire field of vision in front of him is not an entity, but an image that appears directly on his retina. Traversal welfare? Looking at it carefully, I saw a row of handwritings that were as strong as a knife and axe under the wall. He protruded from the wall, sharp and crisp, and a sense of simplicity and longevity came over him. Writing, 7136/10000/First Order. Gold finger? Very nice. Chen Mu quickly accepted the existence of grey walls. It's not normal for a golden finger to appear. As for whether there is any behind the scenes, Chen Mu doesn't care at all. In his previous life, he was a mediocre ordinary otaku. Now that it's all over, Yu reading www.yuyugonshu.com has a golden finger. It will give him the opportunity to open his mind, without any scruples, and go ahead to a whole new world. Even if it is a conspiracy, Chen Mu is happy. It's going to be a great adventure. Goldfinger is easy to understand, similar to the proficiency system of third-rate online games. As long as he thought about it, the grey wall would appear in front of him. And the grey walls are translucent, like wearing colored glasses, which doesn't affect his ability to see other things at all. Chen Mu thought for a while, picked up the brush, and wrote 3 words at random. The numbers on the grey walls are unchanged. Chen Mu thought about it and picked up the pen again to write. This time, he was completely absorbed, stroke by stroke, thinking about the structure of the font as he wrote. Constantly compare and improve the fonts in the predecessor memory. A miraculous thing happened. Threads of insight emerged from the bottom of his heart, making him clearly feel the difference from the previous handwriting. Let him understand how to improve in order to get closer to the forward handwriting, or even surpass it. Conscientious practice can improve proficiency, and the improvement of proficiency will bring real perception and make ability really improve. Chen Mu couldn't help grinning. With proficiency, what is he afraid of? A big change in handwriting was found? Non-existent. Isn't it the liver? Chen Mu spread out the original scriptures, and then found out that his predecessor had copied the scriptures as a disguise. Put away the white paper brush for copying scriptures, took a new brush and started practicing calligraphy with water. He doesn't know how long it will take to reach the level of his predecessor. Directly using pen and ink on white paper will waste a lot of paper, and will also leave handwriting practice. It's good to write with water, but after writing, there is nothing left. In the quiet library, there is only the slight sound of the brush rubbing against the tabletop. The water-stained rag was gradually soaked and soaked. Chen Mu was immersed in practicing calligraphy and never tired of it. He has never been so focused on one thing. In his previous life, it wasn't that he never thought of practicing calligraphy. But after I bought a copybook and wrote 2 lines, I couldn't help turning my head to look at my phone. It lasted for 2 days, and finally it was over. The same is true in life. Sometimes when I wake up, I feel that I am mediocre and want to change, but the next day I sink again. The feeling of being awake for a while and fainting for a while is like a ghost press, a nightmare that can't be woken up. But in this life, in the face of the more boring and difficult to learn calligraphy, it is still a completely unfamiliar font a day ago. However, Chen Mu burst out with unprecedented enthusiasm. The feeling of knowing how to improve the next word after writing one word makes him unable to stop and enjoy it. Around 2 in the afternoon, Chen Mu's stomach growled. Hunger awakened him from his immersion. The water writing font on the desktop is slowly drying. The grey wall appeared again. Writing, 8056/10000/ first order, Chen Mu carefully enjoyed the unfinished feeling. No matter who made him come here, he is grateful for it. Lunch was brought by Cheng Ming Xiadao Tong. 3 coarse grain vegetable cakes, a plate of boiled green leafy vegetables, and a bowl of gruel. Chen Mu devoured it, and in Chen Ming's surprised eyes, he ate as cleanly as the wind swirled. After sending away Cheng Ming, Chen Mu continued to practice calligraphy. The water in the pen wash was changed from basin to basin. The rag was wrung out and soaked. It was not until the light was dim and Chen Mu's vision was blurred that Chen Mu stopped practicing and kept hammering his sore back with both hands. Writing, 8673/10000/ first order, on the grey wall, the writing skills have been greatly improved again. Unfortunately, it's still not as good as its predecessor. After thinking about it, Chen Mu wiped off the water stains on the brush and quietly hid it in the inner pocket of the wide cuff. There is a deadline for copying scriptures. The Taoist temple would not allow him to eat and live here in vain. If he wanted to catch up with his predecessor as soon as possible and finish copying scriptures as soon as possible, he had to work overtime to continue practicing calligraphy when he returned to the guest room. In his previous life, he hated this kind of working overtime during the rest time, and he wished to greet the 18th generation ancestors of the company's managers. Now it's a little more eager to try. In the west courtyard of King Fengagwen, there are 2 figures standing in the shadows outside the moon gate. Uncle He, there is something unusual about that scholar today. A middle-aged Taoist in his 30s asked solemnly. He is the leader of King Fengagwen Fen Grandeist Sincerity. Hideoren, the fire engineer, glanced at the darkened guest room not far away and frowned. I deliberately tested it twice today and found nothing unusual. The Wuxin bell rang for no reason last night. There must be evil spirits in the Taoist temple. The Taoist said coldly and sincerely. Everybody in the Taoist temple practiced martial arts, with strong qi and blood, but the scholar was weak and most likely to be possessed. But in the daytime, apart from dipping in water to practice calligraphy, he doesn't have any other outstanding performances. Hideoren was still undecided. Could it be that the evil spirit has been scared away by Wuxinling? You said he was practicing calligraphy. Sincerity couldn't help narrowing his eyes. I've seen him write, the structure is coordinated, and the handwriting is elegant. He writes so well, what is he practicing? Sincerity snorted coldly. Really possessed by evil? Hideoren's face turned pale. Don't look at King Fengagwen's full-time cleaning of evil, but that's all the work of the Watcher Feng Ren. Hideoren has been a fire worker all his life, and he has never seen such an inexplicable strange thing. Thinking that he might be face to face with an evil spirit, he couldn't help shivering. Then, let's go and tie him up. No, the moon is shining brightly tonight, and the evil spirits are even more strange. Wait until tomorrow, wait for him to be introduced into the Patriarch's hall in the morning, and directly suppress him with a heartless bell. He said with sincerity. This evil spirit is really daring, and dares to come to King Fengagwen to be wild. Moreover, ordinary evildoers are ignorant. This evildoer also knows how to practice calligraphy, trying to get away with it. He is definitely not an ordinary evildoer. Can it be done? Hideoren was uneasy. Evil has possessed the body, the spirit and flesh are incompatible. Wuxinling is the best at capturing the soul, and it is the nemesis of evil. He sincerely comforted. Uncle He, this is the evil spirit talisman left by the master. You can carry it on your body tonight. With it, you can rest easy. Tomorrow everything will be as usual, and there will be no flaws. The upper lines are as red as blood. Under the moonlight, there is a crystal clear feeling. There is also Cheng Ming. He is young and easily attacked by evil spirits. After breakfast tomorrow morning, you can take him to Hushan to grow vegetables, and I will personally guide this scholar. Cheng Cheng carefully warned. Okay, listen to you. Hideoran was relieved. He didn't want to meet the evil spirits. The next morning, the library. With dark circles under his eyes, Chen Mu spread out a large piece of white paper with 2 slabs. This is the cut paper for copying scriptures. The door to the root is wonderful and wonderful. 1 page of scriptures in one go. Putting the brush on the pen holder hill, Chen Mu put the scriptures copied by his predecessor on the side and compared them. Hey! It's finally done! With a thought, a grey wall appeared in front of him. Writing, 103/10,000/2nd order, it's not a waste of time for me to live all night. Afraid of being found abnormal by the people in the Taoist temple, Chen Mu did not dare to light the oil lamp. Fortunately, the full moon hung high last night, enough for him to practice calligraphy under the moon. Master Chen, it's really early today. A voice suddenly sounded at the door. Chen Mu was startled and looked up, just in time to meet the last smiling face. He knew this person, and the sincerity of the Daoist disciple was that the other party recruited his predecessor to copy the scriptures. Last night, he looked back on his predecessor's memory and found that this time he copied a total of 7 copies of the scriptures. Living frugally is enough for him to live for more than a month. Sincerity is long. I shouldn't bother Chen Gongzi copying the scriptures, but I do have something to ask for, so I can only take the liberty of visiting. The sincerity gesture was leisurely, with a warm smile on his face. But my heart is slightly tight, don't be anxious, don't be dry, and don't startle the snake. Please tell me. Chen Mu looked at the sincerity curiously. A good letter came to visit today and promised to invite 1,000-character treasured scripture home to worship. This morning, I found out that only the last copy of the treasured scripture was left, and there was an extra ink spot. Sincerity looked embarrassed. That kind letter is a master's friend, so I really don't dare to neglect it. I just thought of Mr. Li. Mr. Li's handwriting is elegant and beautiful, can you help me to transcribe it urgently? He took out a small grey cloth bag, little run pen, it's not a respect. No problem, where are the scriptures? Chen Mu took the cloth bag and readily agreed. This scripture is a bit special. It was engraved in the temple of the patriarch of the Taoist temple. I have to trouble Chen Gongzi to bring the pen and ink and move to the temple of the patriarch. Sincerity said apologetically. Well, time is running out, let's go right away. Without any hesitation, Chen Mu turned around and went to clean up his pen, ink, paper, and inkstone. Sincerely, he made a fist under his wide cuff. It's done. The two walked out of the library side by side, sincerely trying to suppress their anxiety. Soon, as long as you enter the patriarch's palace, you can suppress this evil spirit. Sir Sincerity, are you hungry? If we eat a vegetable pancake and go, it won't take much time anyway. Chen Mu suddenly said. Sincerity's heart skipped a beat, he quickly returned to God and said, okay, let's eat first. The two of them turned around and walked towards the kitchen. In the kitchen, Daoran he was absent-mindedly washing the dishes. Sincerely told me that Taoist priests got up very early today. After breakfast, everyone was sincerely arranged to practice on the square in front of the patriarch's palace. On the one hand, it stimulates qi and blood to protect itself, and on the other hand, it blocks the intersection to prevent evil spirits from escaping. I don't know if that evil spirit has been suppressed. Hideoran was thinking, when he looked up, he saw a pale figure with dark eye sockets. Hideoran's frightened heart almost stopped. Let's have dinner. Cheng Yi hurriedly spoke in advance. Daoran shook his hand and hurriedly prepared meals for the two of them. Chen Mu devoured it, swallowed 2 of his own vegetable cakes in 2 or 3 times, and almost poured a bowl of porridge directly into his mouth. After eating, he stared at the sincere vegetable cake without blinking. "I'm not too hungry, you can eat." Cheng Yi's eyelids jumped. "Okay." Chen Mu happily took the sincere vegetable cake and chewed it. Sincerity quickly ate his gruel and sat next to him pretending to be relaxed, but Yu Guang stared at Chen Mu. Seeing that Chen Mu had eaten all his vegetable pancakes, he was relieved. "Now it should be fine. Just bring this guy into the patriarch. Can you give me another bowl of porridge? I'm choking." Chen Mu looked difficult. "Okay." Sincerity resisted the urge to gnash his teeth and waved to Daoran He. Daoran He gave Chen Mu porridge with a sad face. "Let the evil spirits have enough to eat and drink, so how can they fight? But if you don't give it, what will he do if he runs away?" He gave Chen Mu the porridge with a bitter face, watched the other party drank it all in one gulp, and burped contentedly. Daoran's whole body was itchy nervously. "Young Master Chen, can you go now?" Sincerity tried to suppress the fluctuating breath. "Let's walk around, start early and collect your work early." Chen Mu was satisfied, and followed his Sincerity to a majestic hall. At this moment, in the small square in front of the hall, 7 or 8 Taoists are wearing bunts and practicing martial arts in full swing. Chen Mu stood beside the square and watched the Taoist practice with great interest. Sincerity was anxious, but did not dare to urge too much, for fear of being noticed by this evil spirit. After watching for a full quarter of an hour, Chen Mu-Kai walked into the Patriarch's hall with a reluctant expression. Looking at Chen Mu who walked into the Patriarch's palace with sincerity, he couldn't help but let out a long sigh of relief. "No matter what kind of evil you are, if you suppress it or not, you will definitely die." Cheng Yi immediately regained his composure, glanced at the disciples who were practicing the exercises, and followed up the Patriarch's hall with a relaxed expression. "Chen Gongzi, please read, the scriptures are here." Yi pointed at the east wall of the Patriarch's hall with a smile on his face. "I don't know that mysteries are upside down, but I strive to know that fire is good for planting lotuses. Bringing the white tiger home to raise, and producing a pearl like a full moon. The whole wall is a huge stone. A mysterious scripture is engraved on the dragon flying and phoenix dance. The font is elegant and atmospheric, and the scriptures are profound and bizarre. Looking at it, it makes people feel mysterious and longing in their hearts. Good word, I'll start copying it now." Chen Mu found a table and unfolded the pen, ink, paper and inkstone. "Good words? What kind of words does an evil spirit know, and he still wants to get away with it? I'm sorry, young Master Chen." Sincerity smiled slowly, his eyelids drooped, and a cold light flickered. While Chen Mu was not paying attention, he quietly came to the offering table in the Patriarch's hall. A bronze bell with a little patina is being buckled in front of the incense burner on the offering table. Sincerely and respectfully bowed and saluted, got up and quickly picked up the copper bell. The bell has a long slap and is equipped with a handle. The top of the grip is sharp like the tip of a gun. The surface is inscribed with human face patterns, embellished with patina and rust, and is simple and heavy. Turning over the copper bell, he glanced to the end, but there was no duotone. With sincerity, he turned to look at Chen Mu, who was seriously copying the book against the wall, and smiled coldly, "Pretend." Sincerity stabbed the handle sharply into the palm of his left hand, and immediately placed the blood-dripping palm in the air on the mouth of the copper bell. An invisible suction force was generated, the palm of the hand was broken like an unscrewed faucet, and bright red blood quickly flowed out into the copper bell. In just 5 breaths, Sincerity's face became extremely pale. The blood suspends in the copper bell out of thin air, rotates and converges, forming a crystal blood drop the size of a peanut. The unintentional bell rings, telling you to show up immediately. Sincerity stared at Chen Mu's back, and shook the copper bell fiercely. The crystal blood beads acted as Duo's tongue, and smashed and scattered on the copper wall. Clang! A distant bell rang suddenly. An invisible wave centered on the bell and quickly spread around. Then it was refracted and rebounded by the walls of the Patriarch's Hall, and it continued to reverberate and gather in the entire Patriarch's Hall, but it never spread to the outside of the temple. Chen Mu, who was seriously copying the scriptures, was shocked, and his body suddenly froze in place. Ha ha! Let me see what the you are. Sincerity stared at Chen Mu eagerly. A long burp came out of Chen Mu's mouth. Sincerity. Why doesn't it work? The unintentional bell has clearly been triggered? Is it not powerful enough? Sincerity gritted his teeth, punctured his left hand again, injected blood, and shook the bell violently. Clang! The distant bell rings again. Chen Mu's figure stagnated again. Sincerity makes a fist with his left hand. It's done. Deist, keep ringing, this bell sounds really nice. Chen Mu, who was stiff in place, suddenly turned around and said. Sincerity. Aren't you feeling any discomfort? Sincerity asked cautiously. Chen Mu frowned and thought, I just feel a little bloated in my stomach. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. Sincerity. Let's shake it, the bell and the scriptures match very well. Chen Mu scratched his head and smiled. Hey! Still shaking? You are afraid that you want me to die. Carrying the copper bell, he approached Chen Mu, and looked at the text that had been copied. The structure is coordinated, and the handwriting is elegant. It is basically the same as the Chen Mu font I saw for the first time, and it is even better to look at, with a little more ethereal charm. Did I guess wrong? Was the evil spirit scared away by Wuxinling last night? Wuxinling is the ancestral legend of King Fengguan. It is said that it came from the ancient pure Yangdao, and it specializes in fighting all kinds of ghosts and evil spirits. The person in front of him didn't respond to Wuxinling, which means that the soul and flesh of the other party are one, and it is not evil at all. Thinking of this, Sincerity felt dizzy for a while. This Wuxin bell is very powerful and consumes a lot of energy. It needs a lot of human blood to motivate it. He is a strong man with strong qi and blood who practiced the exercises all the year round, and his face turned pale after being sucked only twice. The key is that it hasn't worked yet. It's like outputting to the air for a while, but nothing happens. The more he thought about it, the more tofivi he felt. No, I have to go and take some medicine. Put away the Wuxin bell, and leave the Patriarch's Hall with sincerity and embarrassment. He was afraid of fainting here. Seeing the sincerity of leaving in a hurry, Chen Mu couldn't help but pouted. Isn't it just to let you ring the bell twice, run for what? Does that ringtone sound really comfortable? He looked up at the translucent grey wall in front of him. Writing, 135/10,000/2nd order, how did it pop out like a pop-up window? Well, I gained experience again. Forget it, let's quickly copy the scriptures. 4 days later, the library. Sincerely, carefully read the copied Taoist scriptures. In front of him, he laid out 7 Taoist scriptures. This is the result of Chen Mu's labor these days. 2 of them were copied by the predecessor, and the other 5 were copied by him. Sincerely put down the last Taoist scripture, and picked up the first one again. I will read again, and then read again. If you turn it over again, you will turn the book over. Chen Mu reminded expressionlessly. I said just now that I just looked it up, but I read word by word from the beginning to the end. Isn't this guy trying to repay his debts? Chen Mu narrowed his eyes, silently walked to the corner of the desk, and quietly touched the inkstone with his right hand. After thinking for a while, his left hand slowly clasped the pen again. After a long while, Sincerity finally closed the page unwillingly. Raising his eyes, he noticed Chen Mu's small movements, and his eyelids jumped fiercely. Is this scholar so arrogant? Although the handwriting has indeed changed a bit, it is more elegant and beautiful. It has a match with the carvings on the walls of the ancestors' hall. And if you look closely, you will find that this word is in the same line as the original handwriting. You can only admire the other party's outstanding talent and improved calligraphy skills. He hadn't heard that the evil spirits could inherit the talents of the original novel, or even go further. I really guessed wrong. Just when Chen Mu couldn't help but start. Sincerity took out a small grey cloth bag from the cuff. Small run, no respect. Chen Mu immediately smiled, not too small, not too small, why don't you watch it again? No, the handwriting is beautiful and generous, and it looks like an ethereal fairy. It is a rare and good calligraphy. Li Gongzi has an outstanding talent in calligraphy, and he will definitely become a generation of people. He complimented with sincerity. Sincerity is better than awards. Chen Mu said modestly. The two exchanged greetings for a while, and Chen Mu said goodbye. After copying the scriptures, it was time for him to go home. At the entrance of the Taoist temple, Chen Muzheng and Sincerity bid farewell. Hey! Sincerity suddenly raised his head and looked into the distance. Chen Mu couldn't help turning his head to look. King Fengiguan is halfway up the Xiaodong mountain, and there is a stone staircase leading to the foot of the mountain. At this moment, a figure is running wildly from the bottom of the mountain. After taking one step, he jumped 5 or 6 meters, and after a few ups and downs, the mountain road was halfway through. Chen Mu was stunned. How could this man run so fast? Her scalp tightened and her heart couldn't help jumping. This world has martial arts that make people jump over the eaves. He couldn't help thinking of the Taoists who practiced martial arts in King Fengiguan. Can they also fly over the eaves? Chen Mu thought it was just a Dayan technique to strengthen the body. Sincerity Daoist, does King Fengiguan teach martial arts? Chen Mu looked at Sincerity with gleaming eyes. With sincerity, he retracted his gaze and glanced at Chen Mu. Master Chen wants to learn martial arts. Unfortunately, Qing Feng Guanyu is only taught to direct disciples. Sincerity said lightly, Chen Gongzi is an adult and does not meet the requirements of Guanyi to accept disciples. Isn't there a saying of a lay disciple? Chen Mu didn't give up, this is a martial art that can fly over the eaves. He smiled sincerely without saying a word. Chen Mu wanted to ask again, the figure who was still at the foot of the mountain just now came to the two of them. This man was dressed in black attire, with a black-handled gooseling sword hanging from his waist. The other party came with a strong wind blowing his face, and as soon as he stood firm, he asked anxiously, is Daoist Master Feng Ren here? Lu Zaitu. Cheng Cheng's face changed, Master has not returned from the mountain. But where did the evil come? Lu Chao turned his head to look at Chen Mu, go in and talk. Chen Mu stood at the door of the Taoist temple, looking at the figures of the two hurriedly leaving, with an inexplicable expression. Martial arts? Evil? The world is really amazing. He wanted to see how powerful martial arts was and what the evil was. This unknown world is a huge treasure for him, waiting for him to explore. Chen Mu couldn't help his blood boil, this world is very big, I want to see it. Qingshan County East Gate, East City Rongliang Rice Shop. Just now, Chen Mu, who was still eager to see the world, felt like someone had thrown a basin of cold water. 10 buckets of white wheat, 1 cloth bag, and 6 Daituo copper plates of sincerity. The rice shop worker put the grey cloth bag on the counter and looked at Chen Mu with a smile. Almost half of the 150 copper plates on his body were not warmed up yet. If you let it go, the white wheat will last for more than half a month. Plus the consumption of firewood, oil, salt, pen, ink, paper, inkstone, etc. Don't talk about going to see the world. If you can't continue to make money, I can't talk about whether you can have food next month. It's not easy to live. Carrying a rice bag, Chen Mu left Dongxi and came to Ping'an Square in the southeast of the county. According to memory, Chen Mu stopped in front of a house. This is the former home. My father passed away a few years ago. His mother died young again, leaving him alone to live here. Opening the copper lock, pushing open the grey wooden door, Chen Mu stepped in. The courtyard is not big, with a vegetable field on the east side, a thatched shed on the west side, and a mud stove below. There is a well next to it. Although the sparrow is small, it has all the internal organs and is a good place. In the main room, there is a square table facing the door, with 2 long chairs beside it. Chen Mu came to the west window. There was a long wooden table with pots and pans. Pouring the white wheat into the black rice jar beside the table, Chen Mu sat down at the square table to rest. Traversing, evil, practicing calligraphy, copying scriptures, since he came to this world, he has not been idle for a moment. Now that everything has settled down, he is rather at a loss. To make a living by writing and drawing like the predecessor? In that kind of life, he can almost see the head at a glance. Live frugally, and work hard to save money. When you are old, you can marry a daughter-in-law alive. Then give birth to a child who does not know filial piety or not. Then spend the rest of his life in the noise of firewood, rice, oil, and salt. Reading www.uuganshu.com. You can say that blandness is true, but you can also say that it is mediocre. This is almost a replica of Chen Mu's previous life. But since he was given the opportunity to travel, he never wanted to live that same life again. He's going to Rome. He's going on an adventure. Bang bang bang. Suddenly there was a knock on the door. Open the door. Who is this? Chen Mu opened the door suspiciously. A tall and thin old man in his 50s stood at the door. The other party said with a cold face, "Rent collection." A flash of memory quickly came to my mind. Li Yu, the second housekeeper of the Wang family, the rent collector. Although he has lived in his own house since childhood, the house does not belong to him. "Butler Li, please come in," Chen Mu said politely. "No." Butler Li waved his hand and said indifferently, "Pay the money." "Wait a minute, I'll go get it right away." Chen Mu turned around and went back to the house, and took out a black pottery from under the bed. Tao Weng sealed it with grey cloth, the size of 2 fists. Open the sealing line, turn it up and down, and pop out a small pile of copper coins. This is all the savings of the predecessor. Quickly counted out 310 copper plates and put them in a small bag, and Chen Mu returned to the door. "Butler Li, take the rent for March." Chen Mu handed over the grey cloth bag. Butler Li took it and raised his hand twice, nodded slightly, threw it to the 2 strong men behind him, turned around and left. Chen Mu closed the door and went back to the house, sighing and counting the coins. Including the income from copying the scriptures, there are still 232 in total. Fat meat costs 24 coppers a pound. With this amount of money, you can't buy 10 pounds of meat. He wants to venture into the world, but first he has to make money to eat. East City, Qingshan County, Ink Studio. Ink Studio mainly sells pen, ink, paper, and inkstone, and also sells printed books. Chen Mu was sitting on the east side of the entrance of the ink studio. There is a table in front of him, complete with pen, ink, paper, and inkstone. There was a piece of white paper hanging in front of the table, and 2 people were drawn on it. One was himself, writing with a pen, and the other was a passerby with only his back. Next to the portrait, there are 8 elegant characters written, "Write letters, draw portraits." This is the place where the predecessor wrote the portrait. The tables, chairs, and benches are all from EU Ink Studio, including his location, and the rent is 2 copper plates a day. Chen Mu sat behind the desk, boredly waiting for the business to come. In this era, productivity is not high, and the standard of living and education is not good. The poor people are most likely to have people carry messages with them, but very few letters are written. After sitting for a day, he only wrote 3 letters. Writing a letter is different from selling words with calligraphy. It is impossible to sell words for money. Within a piece of letter paper, there are always 3 copper plates. 3 letters are 9 coins. 2 for ink studio, 4 are reserved for rent, and only 3 are left. It is barely enough for one day's meals, but it's still the kind that I can't get enough to eat. Ugh! In the evening 4 days later, Chen Mu came to the north side of East City near Anlifang. Here is Gulan Street, which gathers a large number of brothels and chew halls. The sky was getting dark, and the place became more and more lively. Chen Mu stood in the shadow of the street corner, staring at an old man on the street. The old man was dressed in a long gown and had a table in front of him. He was concentrating on splashing ink. He has been observing for 2 days. This old man is a painter, and he makes a living by painting people here. The protagonists of the portraits are mostly singers in the hook bars along the street. The exact amount of income is not clear, but seeing that the other party is clean and bright, and he must go out to eat every day, it is not a big difference. Walking out of the street corner, he slowly approached the old man's desk, looked at the other party's painting for a moment, and Chen Mu pretended to nod. The old man looked up at Chen Mu for a moment, then smiled. "Why, you also want to sell paintings?" Chen Mu was startled. The old man could see his thoughts. Seemingly aware of Chen Mu's doubts, the old man straightened up and smiled indifferently. "You've watched me for 2 days, and you haven't made up your mind yet." Chen Mu was stunned, but he felt that he was hiding well, but he didn't expect to be noticed earlier. Selling paintings is a dead end. "Young man, listen to my advice, go back and study hard." The old man's face was inscrutable. "The water in this line is very deep, you can't hold it." The old man sneered and said lightly. Chen Mu's face was inexplicable. How deep the water could be to sell a painting. "I won't stop you either, just ask for more blessings." The old man smiled, lowered his head and continued painting without paying any attention. Pingan Square. Chen Mu didn't care about eating, so he plunged into the study on the east side, and took a self-portrait for himself with the reflection in the water basin. After painting, compare it in front of the mirror. This painting, except for self-painting, there is nothing like it. A grey wall appeared in front of him. Writing, 1035/10,000/second order, drawing, 3061/10,000/first order. Chen Mu thought about the painting of the old man on Gulan Street. Well, at least there is a lot of room for improvement. Putting away the paintings, Chen Mu left the study. After pouring all the money on the square table, Chen Mu counted it again. There are 2 paths before him. One is to live according to the original owner's trajectory, slowly accumulate wealth, and look for possible opportunities for change. The other is to give it a try, take out all the money to practice painting in seclusion, and after you have achieved the level, go to Golanuja Street to paint the singers to make more money, eat your fill first, and then try more possibilities. Whether it is the former original owner or the previous life, he will choose the first one. Because that looks more secure and stable. Dare to step out of the comfort zone, dare not face the pressure of the unknown, dare not show the courage to sacrifice one's life. This is the general state of all living beings. Facts have proved that even if a seemingly safe choice is chosen, it may not necessarily bring stability. Any accident in life can defeat this seemingly stable but fragile peaceful life. I've already worn it, what else is there to take care of? Chen Mu smiled softly, besides, I still have grey wall proficiency. He went out with the money and bought white wheat to fill the rice jar. With careful planning, he bought enough oil, salt, and firewood for 2 months. Carefully organize the vegetable field on the east side of my small courtyard, plan the amount of food that can be eaten every day, and try to last until 2 months later. After preparing everything, there were only 3 copper plates left on his body. However, Chen Mu felt a sense of physical and mental relaxation. When everything was ready, Chen Mu closed the door and began to practice painting. The painting technique of this era is similar to the freehand brushwork of splashing ink in ancient times, focusing on meaning rather than shape. The predecessor's father was an old scholar who taught children for a living. The previous painting skills were taught by my father. Chen Mu does not plan to develop according to the previous technique. He has seen the paintings of the old man Gulan, and the paintings are very vivid. Even with the help of proficiency, Chen Mu is not sure to surpass it within a period of time. He was going to find another way. In the previous life, in the era of information explosion, I have seen many paintings of various kinds. Compared with freehand painting, Chen Mu intends to create a three-dimensional painting with fine brushwork, so he will highlight one word like. It's like a camera. Holding a branch with a sharpened tip, Chen Mu came to the vegetable field in the small courtyard. There is a flat land about 1 meter in diameter, and a layer of fine soil is evenly spread on it. Writing in water is fine, but painting is not suitable. He plans to practice on fine soil so that he can use it repeatedly. Facing the reflection of the water basin, Chen Mu used sharpened branches to outline each stroke. It took half an hour to draw a self-portrait. Chen Mu couldn't wait to call out the grey wall. Writing, 1035/10000/second order, drawing, 3073/10000/first order, 1 portrait, an increase of 12 points of proficiency. It's okay. Chen Mu sighed with relief. Drawing takes more time than practicing calligraphy. Fortunately, the experience has improved a lot. After leveling the ground and sieving soil to cover it, Chen Mu continued to paint. This time, I only got 9 proficiencies. While sorting out the fine soil, Chen Mu thought and summed up what he had gained between the two paintings. After writing again, he consciously improved. The proficiency really improved greatly, and I got 13 points. It seems to be more devoted. After that, every time he practiced painting, Chen Mu would take a short rest, sum up what he had learned, and even use pen and paper to record. Time passed slowly as he practiced, improved, and practiced. Chen Mu's drawing ability is also improving little by little. A month and a half later, in the study, Chen Mu's hair was loose and his beard was messy. With a brush in his hand, he lightly sketched on the white paper. A beauty with fluttering white clothes and ethereal temperament was born under the pen. This beauty has long dark hair, a three-dimensional figure, and smart eyes, and even has a feeling of being alive. Chen Mu put his pen away and looked at it. After thinking about it, he wrote a 7-character poem next to him. Shili Pinghu is full of frost, and every inch of blue silk is sad for the year. Looking at each other in the shape of the moon, I only envy the mandarin ducks, not the immortals. Writing, 1035/10000/second order, drawing, 72/10000/second order, it's done. As long as the skills on the grey wall enter the second level, they will undergo qualitative changes. Just like calligraphy, just looking at the structure of the font, there is no obvious difference between the second order and the first order peak. But look at the whole text. Second order words will have a special charm. At the beginning, I copied the scriptures for King Fengagwan, but the later ones obviously have a more ethereal temperament. Just looking at the font makes people feel that the Taoist scriptures are mysterious. Similarly, when his drawing ability entered the second level, he had a lot of knowledge in his mind. When he draws a faceplate, the general shape of different faces will appear in his brain. When drawing eyes, all kinds of eyes, such as phoenix eyes, peach blossom eyes, triangular eyes, and watery eyes, come to mind. Outline the bridge of the nose, and all kinds of information about the distribution of the 3 quarts, 5 eyes, and facial features come one after another. As long as a person speaks clearly enough, he can draw a 7/8 image of the other person without seeing him. Not only that, but the mix of various pigments is also well understood. He also knows a thing or two about magical pigments such as insect-proof and anti-corrosion, permanent preservation, and even invisible discoloration. Combing his hair, cleaning his beard, changing into clean clothes, holding a pen, ink, paper, inkstone, and the painting he named Xiao Qian, Chen Mu left home and went straight to Anlifang. The rice tank has bottomed out, and if it doesn't open again, he won't have any food to eat. Anlifang, Ruyizai. Chen Mu found the shopkeeper and handed the only 3 copper plates to the other party. I rented tables, chairs, benches, and an open space at the door for a day. Ruyizai is one of the 4 top restaurants in Anlifang. It mainly focuses on elegant vegetarian food, and is best at all kinds of medicated meals that warm and detoxify. In addition to all kinds of players who are not bad money, various brothel singers also often order meals here. The singers don't easily show their faces, but the singers always have their own servants running around. Chen Mu is not well known. If he wants to open up the situation as soon as possible, he has to show his works to clients as soon as possible. He was targeting these singer servants. Just as he was fiddling with the tables and chairs, a familiar old man walked into Ruyizai. She just entered the door and backed out. After looking at Chen Mu, she said with a half-smiling smile, "Brother, have you figured it out? You really want to sell paintings here?" This is the old painter that Chen Mu met last time. Afterwards, Chen Mu asked someone to inquire. The other party's surname was Yan, and he was quite famous. He had been with Anlifang all his life, and many singers who had been flamboyant for a while had asked him to draw portraits. "Eat with a mouthful of food," Chen Mu said calmly. "Do you know who I am?" Painter Yan asked. Old Yan, Danking's wonderful hand, is the guest of the singers. Chen Mu replied. "It seems that you don't know who I am yet." Painter Yan smiled, "It's okay, you will know soon." After speaking, Shi Shiran walked into Ruyizai for dinner. Chen Mu's face was inexplicable. Isn't he the painter Yan? Any special identity? Seeing the increase in the number of people in Ruyizai, Chen Mu pressed his doubts into his heart. Set up the table, chairs, and benches, spread the painting Xiao Qian on the table, and use the inkstone paperweight to hold down the corners. Chen Mu sat confidently behind the table and waited. Originally, the painting should have been framed and hung up so that it would be more conspicuous. Unfortunately, Chen Mu ran out of money. It was noon now, and it was the time when the singers of the various families started to get up and eat. The maids and servants walked out of the brothels and went to rouge shops, cloth houses, jewelry shops, and other places. Ruyizai also divides a group of people. These people saw Chen Mu at the door and the paintings on the table at a glance. The vivid three-dimensional painting method, like the similarity of photos, attracts people in an instant. Not long after, there was a circle of people around Chen Mu's desk. There was that clever one who had already taken the lunch box and ran back quickly. Chen Mu glanced at the back of a maid who was leaving quickly, and was overjoyed. "It looks like it will open soon." "Don't say, that girl just now was pretty good looking. Then the singer she serves is not far behind. Not only can you make money, but you can also look at beautiful singers. I'm on the right track." But before the beautiful maid came back, an old man came to the door first. "Butler Li?" Chen Mu asked suspiciously. "What did you draw?" Butler Li had a cold face as always, and his words were extraordinarily concise. "I drew it." Chen Mu answered honestly. "Follow me." Taking another look at the lifelike portrait on the table, Butler Li said lightly. "This is, for business?" Chen Mu was overjoyed, and hurriedly rolled up the painting and collected the pen and ink. He shouted at Ruyizai Xiao'er and asked him to help move the tables and chairs in, and quickly followed Steward Li. "I don't know who the picture is for. Could it be that Butler Li had a relationship in Anlifang? No, it's more likely that the young master of the Wang family is hiding the beauty here." Chen Mu left with the painting Xiao Qian, and the onlookers also dispersed. Painter Yan, who did not know when he walked out of Ruyi's eye again, stood silently at the table. Old Yan, is it the old rules? A strong man appeared behind him. Selling paintings here without passing our Miao Huafeng, nodding, this kid just needs to clean up. Another skinny guy also smiled and continued, Old Yan, don't worry, this kind of stunned youth, you can know it by beating him. It's the rules. Painter Yan has been with Huafeng all his life. Since he was young, he has been giving people portraits, and because of his outstanding painting skills, he quickly became famous. Miao Huafeng values its skills and uses various means to force it to join. Later, as his skills increased greatly, he gradually gained a foothold in the Miaohua workshop. After getting enough benefits, he joined forces with Miao Huafeng to control the book portrait business of Huafeng. Many scholars who sell paintings for a living are either forced to join the Miao Huafeng to work hard, or they are driven away by various means. Painter Yan stared at the long table where the paintings were placed just now and pondered for a moment, then suddenly said, find out his background. If there is no background, find an opportunity to interrupt his hands. The two people, one tall and the other short, looked at each other. This was to destroy that scholar. Yes. The two nodded quickly. Painter Yan nodded in satisfaction, thinking about the vivid portrait, and snorted coldly. The painting is very good, but it is too good. So good that he couldn't imitate it at all. This kind of person joins the workshop, which is a threat to him. He has been with the painting workshop for half his life, and he has been a powerful man for a long time. He doesn't want to be overturned when he grows old. Then it can only ruin you. Chen Mu quickly followed Butler Li. Walking and walking, he actually left Huafeng. Not in Huafeng? Could it be that the eldest son of the Wang family, Jin Muzang Jiao, raised a concubine outside? The two got into the carriage and rushed into the city along Dongxi Street. Sitting in the car, Butler Li kept quiet and closed his eyes, and Chen Mu was not easy to talk to, so he could only look at the scenery from the car window. As the carriage moved, the buildings on both sides of the street were organized. The flow of people has also changed significantly. The streets on the ground are paved with blue stone, and the houses have changed from small courtyards to deep courtyards. About a quarter of an hour later, the two of them came to a red lacquered gate. Chen Mu recognized this place as the Wang family courtyard, the owner of the house he rented. Which lady from the Wang family needs a portrait? It may be that when it comes to the wedding, the family prepares a portrait for a blind date. Butler Li most likely went to Painter Yan. Hey, am I taking that old man's business? Chen Mu thought happily. Follow Butler Li and enter through the side door. Along the way, the rockery and water, the pavilions, made Chen Mu sigh with emotion, worthy of being a big family. Then he was led by Steward Li to the inner courtyard, where 7 or 8 servants waited in the courtyard. Some carry water basins, some hold towels, and some carry food boxes. As soon as he walked into the house, a strong medicinal smell hit his nostrils. Is this lady still ill? Master, the painter is here. Butler Li walked over to a middle-aged man in his 40s and said respectfully. He. The middle-aged man looked at Chen Mu suspiciously. Butler Li reached out and took the painting from Chen Mu's hand and unfolded it halfway to show the middle-aged person to watch it. Not bad. Just him. The middle-aged man's eyes lit up and nodded in satisfaction. Come with me. Butler Li waved to Chen Mu and walked into the inner room. This is my master, please paint a portrait of Mr. Li. Butler Li motioned for Chen Mu to look at the bed and whispered, Master is seriously ill, and in case of an accident, it is better to leave a look for future generations. Chen Mu stared blankly, and a pale old man was lying on his back on the bed in a coma. The first-class pen and ink are ready, let's do it. Chen Mu. This is for me to draw a portrait. What about the beautiful lady? Just paint, do you make money? It's not shabby. Please fetch the clothes and accessories that Master Wang wears every day. It's best to call the maid who is grooming Master Wang. Bring out a nicer chair. Butler Li glanced at Chen Mu in surprise. After going out to ask young Master Wang for instructions, he made arrangements according to Chen Mu's request. Originally, the portrait should have been dressed and painted before painting. It's a pity, looking at the state of this person on the bed, let alone the posing of the clothes, it's hard to say whether you can see the sun tomorrow. If it weren't for the second-level drawing skills, Chen Mu would not dare to accept it. Now he is confident. Seeing Master Wang's clothes, Chen Mu's mind had the appearance of the other party being neatly dressed. Carefully inquired about the daily operation of grooming the maid, and Mr. Wang's face and hairstyle in a healthy state were already well established. It is complemented by a simple and heavy armchair. The renderings of the entire portrait are clearly presented in front of you. Chen Mu glanced at Master Wang again. Then immediately bowed his head and painted. An hour later, Chen Mu stopped writing and got up. Chen Gong's wonderful hand. Butler Li, who had been cold all the time, couldn't help but be moved. The person in the painting has a full face, bright eyes, and meticulously combed hair. The overall image is very different from the person on the hospital bed. But Butler Li knew that this was the image of Master Wang when he was in a healthy state. He did not expect that this poor scholar, who has been unknown for a long time, has such skills. On the carriage, Chen Mu held a small cloth bag with a happy expression. Inside is the money that Butler Li gave him, which is 10 taels of silver. At the same time, he will be exempted from rent for 1 year. In Qingshan County, 1 tael of silver can be exchanged for about 1,200 copper plates. 300 copper plates are enough for a family of 3 to spend a month, and they are still enough to eat. 12 taels of silver, saving a little, can support a family for 3 years. This is a huge sum of money for Chen Mu. But Butler Li gave it casually. Apart from the fact that his portrait is really outstanding, it is more about the wealth of the Wang family, not less than that. I can finally eat meat now. Half a month in retreat, spending energy practicing painting. Although every meal is full, there is only green cabbage and white wheat. Not only is she not fat, but she is also thinner. When I got to Dongxi, I got off the bus early. Chen Mu ran to the butcher's shop, bought 2 caddies of pork belly, and walked home with it. After suffering for a month and a half, he wants to eat a good meal today. Walking and walking, I passed a martial arts gym. Hearing the shouting in the martial arts hall, Chen Mu couldn't help but stop and watch. He didn't forget that Liu Zayatu, who was 5 or 6 meters away. There is a black-backed gold plaque hanging in the martial arts hall, which is written in the Baiyun Martial Arts Hall. Chen Mu stood at the door and watched calmly. Some of the apprentices were holding up stone locks, some were sticking big guns, some were dancing swords, and they were in full swing. After watching it for a while, Chen Mu walked out of the martial arts hall disappointed. Those exercises are basically methods of strength training, similar to those of the gym in the previous life. With these methods, Liu Zayata's ability to run 5 or 6 meters can't be practiced. Don't worry, take your time to find out. The next day, Chen Mu didn't get up to wash until the 3rd day of the sun. The only and a half-month retreat in a desperate attempt, the world is unknown and the future is unknown, all of which have brought him enormous pressure. But the 12 taels of silver that he earned yesterday finally gave Chen Mu a sigh of relief. With this money, he won't have to worry about going hungry for at least a year or 2. More importantly, he has mastered the skills that are enough to support himself, and even allow himself to live well. It's a pity to draw people's portraits just after the opening. It would be nice if there was a beautiful singer. After eating and drinking, Chen Mu brought the ink, ready to go to Onlifang to continue selling paintings. Chen Mu lives in Ping'an Square and southeast of Qingshan County. The houses here are all low-rise buildings. Belongs to the civilian gathering area. The roads are all small alleys with twists and turns. Just after turning a corner, a tall and stout burly man came towards him. The other party's eyes stared at Chen Mu, his face was stern, which made one's heart tremble. Chen Mu instinctively felt bad. Turn around and exit the alley. Behind him, at some point, a short man stood. The other party looked at Chen Mu with a smile, with a playful look on his face. Blocked. Chen Mu's heart panicked for a moment, and his mind quickly recalled the memory of his predecessor, but he did not find the two figures. There is no memory of grudges with others. I made an appointment with the Wang family in the city. Today, I want to paint a portrait of the master of the Wang family. If the time is delayed, the two of you will be held responsible. Chen Mu tried to calm down. Scare me. The short man smiled and said, "Didn't you finish painting yesterday?" Chen Mu's heart sank. These two came prepared. All the money for writing the pen is here, can you let me go? Chen Mu took out the cloth bag and said, but at this time he calmed down instead. He decided to save money and avoid disaster. Knowing that these people are like dog skin plaster, once they get on it, they can't easily escape. But if you don't give it, the other party will definitely grab it, or beat him if you don't. That's not enough, I have to add something else. The short man said with a smile as he approached. His tone was full of playfulness. Chen Mu's brows could not help wrinkling. Apart from this bag of money, I have no other valuables. Add your hands. The tall and strong man said coldly. Chen Mu's heart suddenly turned cold. Can you tell me who sent you here? This is not a simple robbery. The short man looked at Chen Mu in surprise. Aren't you afraid? I'm afraid. You reading www.yuyuganshu.com. Chen Mu said calmly. But I'm afraid that can't let the two stop. The short man frowned. Why does this guy look indifferent? Shouldn't he panic and kneel down to beg for mercy? Take off its pair of arms. The short man said coldly. When I interrupt your hands, I'll see if you can still be so calm. Chen Mu's scalp tightened, suppressing the instinct to escape, and his eyes scanned the two of them earnestly. He wants to remember the appearance of these two people, and he can also remember the appearance of these two people. Look at your mother. The short man was annoyed by Chen Mu's staring. He kicked Chen Mu to the ground. Why, you still want to take revenge on me, right? When I break your legs and poke your eyes out, I'll see how you get revenge. The short man said fiercely. They hang out on the streets all the year round, and their vicious methods are like commonplace. The tall and strong man walked in front of Chen Mu in 2 steps, raised his foot and stomped towards Chen Mu's palm. Chen Mu couldn't help but tensed. Boom! A dark shadow flashed before his eyes, but the expected pain did not come. The tall and strong man suddenly flew into the sky, flying 3 or 4 meters, and fell with all 4 of his feet upside down. He twitched all over, twisting his body like an earthworm, but he couldn't get up. Boom! Almost at the same time, another voice came. The short man was like a painting, sticking to the wall uncontrollably. Immediately fell to the ground, his face was tangled, and he gasped. Chen Mu turned his head to look, and at some point, a figure dressed in black with a long knife on his waist and crotch appeared not far behind him. Liu Zayatu. Master Chen. Liu Zayatu looked at Chen Mu calmly. It's me. Chen Mu got up from the ground and thanked him. Thank you Liu Zayatu for saving me. Hands up. Liu Chato glanced at the 2 people on the ground lightly. The 2 men who were lying on the ground humming and chirping noticed Liu Zayatu's eyes, and their whole body trembled, and their voices were much lower. It seemed that she was extremely afraid of this head arrester named Liu. Can you ask young Master Chen to move to the county government office? I want young Master Chen to help with some things. Liu Zayatu said politely. No problem. Chen Mu agreed without hesitation. Please. Liu Zayatu held the knife in his right hand and turned sideways to clear the way. Chen Mu patted the soil on his body and walked towards the entrance of the alley. When passing by the short man, he stomped his right foot on the opponent's left hand. What? The man was caught off guard, and suddenly screamed like killing a pig. Liu Zayata's expression suddenly became strange. Noticing Liu Zayata's gaze, Chen Mu smiled shyly. Then the right foot slammed hard and crushed it twice. Liu Shuta's mouth suddenly twitched. Walking out of the alley, the two walked side by side. Chen Mu suddenly said, "Does Liu Zayata know the identities of these two?" "I don't know." Liu Zayata replied subconsciously. Immediately, he looked at Chen Mu in astonishment. "Why, do you still want to take revenge? Being blocked for no reason, you always have to know which immortal you have offended." Chen Mu sighed and said, "It's mainly for the sake of safety in the future. If you can't afford to offend, you can always hide." "I really don't know the two of them." Liu Zayatu hesitated for a moment and said, "But looking at their clothes, they look like people from Dongxi Miahuafang. East City? Wonderful painting workshop? That painter Yan? I was just selling a painting, and I even asked someone to interrupt my hand. He really wanted to take revenge directly. But he was a poor scholar and made a living by selling paintings. However, the other party has been entrenched in Onlfang all year round, and can drive the gangster to take revenge by himself. Isn't that hitting the stone with an egg?" Chen Mu said unwillingly, "I can't go to Dongxi in the future." Liu Zayata glanced at Chen Mu before he stopped talking. The two were not related but not related, and he didn't know the details, so he couldn't help directly. Can only be silent, and take Chen Mu straight to the county office. Qingshan County Government Office. Chen Mu stood alone in the lobby of the county government office and looked around. The lobby is wide, with 2 rows of wooden racks on both sides, where wooden sticks, gongs, umbrellas, and weapons of honor are neatly placed. In the depths, there is a bookcase in the lobby, complete with documents, signatures, pen holders, and inkstones. In the corner of the book desk there is also a bronze mirror covered in patina. Is the ancient county government so unreliable? Call me and let me stand here by myself. Chen Mu murmured. Since he came to the county office, he has been left hanging in this empty hall. Liu Zayata turned into the back hall and disappeared, and he didn't know when he would return. My predecessor's memory doesn't have any criminal records. I didn't do anything outrageous, so there's a high probability that nothing will happen. Chen Mu was still calm. It's a pity that the portrait skills that I just developed seem to be a little difficult to realize. There was nothing to do at the moment, and Chen Mu thought silently about how to treat Master Yan. It's not hard to guess why the other party calculated him. It is nothing more than attacking peers and safeguarding their own interests. The method is simple and crude, but very practical. You can't go to Enlefang until you think of a way to break the game. Chen Mu thought regretfully. I just found a way to get money, but I didn't expect that it would be terminated after only 1 day of opening. Fortunately, I earned 10 taels of silver from the Wang family, so I don't have to worry about food and drink for the time being. But if you want to learn martial arts with 10 taels of silver and see the strange scenery of this world, it is obviously not enough. The county courthouse. Du Huai, the county magistrate of Qingshan County, sat on the top of the head nervously. Lieutenant Du, that person has been standing under the bronze mirror to ward off evil for half an hour, so he should have nothing to do with evil. Liu Zayata said. A middle-aged Taoist priest next to him shook his head and said, "That's not necessarily true. If you can hide from my King Fengagwen Wuxinling, it is possible to escape the evil spirit mirror." If Chen Mu were here, he would have discovered that this middle-aged Taoist priest was the sincerity of King Fengagwen. Lieutenant Du immediately stood up, facing the back door, ready to run. Then he looked nervously at Liu Shitu and asked, "Is he really the one who did the Wang family annihilation case?" To be able to avoid Wuxin Bell and to hide the evil spirit mirror, what a fierce evil spirit to have this ability. According to the survey, Chen Mu had a clear trajectory after leaving Wang's house, and he never went out again after returning home. It's unlikely that it was him. Liu Zayatu hesitated for a moment and truthfully told the investigation results. If he sneaks out of the house in the middle of the night, no one will notice. Sincerity said lightly. Liu Zayatu glanced at the sincerity. The other party seems to have some contradictions with Miao Huafang. There were people following him yesterday. It's fine. Du Xianwei breathed a sigh of relief and sat back on the chair. What happened to that headless portrait? Cheng Cheng frowned and said, there is no head in the painting, and as a result, the head of the person is gone. It's not normal no matter how you look at it. Du Xianwei, who had just breathed a sigh of relief, suddenly became nervous again. Perhaps someone is pretending to be mystical. Liu Chao squinted his eyes. Human? Impossible. The Wang family's case of annihilation must be done by evil people. Du Xianwei glared at Liu Zhudu and said. Under the rule, there was a massacre of the family. If it was man-made, he, the county magistrate, would not be able to catch the criminals, so he would have been subjected to the endo-fire evaluations. The Wang family annihilation case must have been done by evil spirits. Whether it's a person or not, Chen Mu's suspicion is not small. Sincerity said lightly. It seems that Chen Mu can't be spared. Du Xianwei was thoughtful. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. If there is nothing else, Pandeo will say goodbye first. Sincerity glanced at Liu Chatu and said calmly. Okay, Liu Zayatu will send me a sincere Taoist priest. Du Xianwei said with a smile. In the lobby, the bored-waiting Chen Mu stared at the bronze mirror. The bronze mirror is round, with flame-like patterns engraved around it, covered with green patina, and placed on a small wooden stand. I don't know which dynasty it is. Just as he was thinking about it, two figures turned out from the back hall. Sincere Taoist priest. Chen Mu looked at the middle-aged Taoist priest in surprise. No matter how well you hide it, sooner or later you'll have to show it. Cheng Cheng glanced at Chen Mu and said coldly. After he finished speaking, he ignored Chen Mu who was stunned, turned around and left the lobby quickly. When did I offend this Taoist priest? Chen Mu was puzzled. What's wrong with the evil voice? After a while, Liu Zayatu returned to the lobby. He also holds a painting in his hand. He came to Chen Mu, unfolded the painting and said, Master Chen, did you paint this painting? Chen Mu looked at it carefully, and his scalp suddenly became numb. The fine brushwork technique and the three-dimensional portrait are exactly the portrait he painted for the master of the Wang family. But strangely, the head on the portrait disappeared. It seems to have been erased out of thin air. I drew it, but I drew a full-body portrait with a head. Chen Mu intuitively found himself in trouble. Last night, the Wang family was wiped out, and all the blood relatives died. Just like this portrait, the heads disappeared. Chen Mu's scalp tightened. Broke in. This is to doubt yourself. If you can't prove that you have nothing to do with the Wang family annihilation case, I can only let you stay in the cell for a few days. Liu Zuquei said lightly. This. Chen Mu never imagined that he would be involved in the massacre just by drawing a picture. What scares him even more is that the Wang family would be wiped out. That is a big family that has been entrenched in Qingshan County for decades. Staring at the portrait without the head, Chen Mu thought a lot in his mind. Come with me. Liu Jita turned around and was about to take Chen Mu to the back hall. The county lieutenant said that Chen Mu could not be spared, so he could only lock Chen Mu temporarily. Liu Zayatu couldn't help but feel a trace of pity in his heart. It's easy to get into a prison, but it's hard to get out. The circumstances of the Wang family annihilation case were bad, and the magistrate and county magistrate were under great pressure. If it's not good, you will find a scapegoat in the end. This scholar involved with the Wang family. Liu Zayata didn't dare to think about it. Wait! Chen Mu called out to stop Liu Zayatu. The predecessor had no relatives and no reason, and was alone. Being locked up in a prison, with no one moving outside, you really can only resign yourself to fate. I painted a complete portrait. The head disappeared. Someone must have made a mystery and used a special technique to erase the head. Chen Mu said solemnly. Second-order drawing skills gave him a huge knowledge reserve. Staring at the headless portrait, a paint formula gradually came to mind. He approached the portrait and sniffed quietly. In the rich scent of ink, a faint fragrance came from the paper, and Chen Mu became more and more certain. You can't prove it. Liu Zayata said. There is a way. Chen Mu stared at Liu Zayatu. This painting is a portrait of the head of the Wang family. The paper and paint are exquisite, and with my painting skills that can penetrate the back of the paper, it can be preserved for decades without fading. Chen Mu flicked his words firmly. In fact, the effect of the liquid medicine that can eliminate the pigment ink is not complete, and there are residues. Of course he couldn't tell the other party about the potion directly. This will also increase his suspicion. As long as the framer lifts the painting from the middle, you will be able to see the paint residue. It is enough to prove that what I painted is a complete portrait. You are waiting here. Liu Zayata took the portrait and walked out of the lobby. All the scribes in the 6th room of the county government are scholars, and many old scribes know how to decorate. Half an hour later, in the hall of the county court. There's no way to say it's evil. Du Xianwei stared at the lifelike portrait with a sad face. Evil people kill people, but they won't erase the heads of the portraits. Obviously, the thieves are making trouble, so they are mysterious. It seems that the scholar is indeed at the right time. Liu Zayata said. Well, he's still talented. Du Xianwei has time to observe the portrait. The three-dimensional portrait, the realistic effect, immediately refreshed him. He had never seen such a drawing before. If the portrait on the wanted notice is as realistic as this painting, there will be no robbers who can't be caught. Du Xianwei's heart moved. I'd be interested in meeting this scholar. The evil spirit mirror really didn't respond. Du Xianwei confirmed again. No. Let's go and meet this scholar. Du Xianwei said calmly. Chen Gongzi is a great talent, one-handed painting skills have opened my eyes. Du Xianwei walked out of the back hall with a face full of admiration. This is the county lieutenant of our county. Liu Zayatu introduced from the side. Chen Mu bowed his hands and said, I've seen Lieutenant Du Xian. He had already obtained information from his predecessor's memory. Knowing that the county magistrate is equivalent to the company's vice president, the Qingshan county government is second only to the county magistrate, and is mainly responsible for domestic security. The Wang family annihilation case is within the jurisdiction of the other party. This county lieutenant has figured it out. The Wang family annihilation case has nothing to do with you. You just happened to be at the right meeting. You can go home in peace after a while. Du county lieutenant waved his hand. Thank you for the county lieutenant. Chen Mu breathed a sigh of relief. I think Mr. Chen's painting skills are realistic. If you can come to the county government to help draw the wanted portrait, it will greatly improve the security of our county. I don't know if Mr. Chen. Du Xianwei said lightly. No problem. Chen Mu agreed decisively. He couldn't help but agree. Du Xianwei nodded in satisfaction, and then asked casually, Young Master Chen can see that someone deliberately erased the portrait, so do you know anything about this special technique? Learn? Not only do I understand, I'll configure that potion. But I can't say. Chen Mu pretended to be thinking, and shook his head with a wry smile for a long while. My father mentioned this method of removing pigments before, but he just heard about it, but I don't know exactly how. Lieutenant Du nodded. He also didn't expect a poor scholar to know this secret method. Just as he was about to open his mouth to see the guest, Chen Mu suddenly said, "It is said that the Miao painting workshop in the east of the city gathers top painters in Qingshan County, and the people there might know something." Standing beside Liu Chatu, the corner of his mouth twitched violently. Miao Huafeng. Du Xianwei's eyes suddenly lit up. "Liu Chakui, you immediately bring people to capture the painters of Miao Huafeng." Liu Chao turned his head to look at Chen Mu, who was smiling as if it had nothing to do with him, and the corners of his eyes couldn't help but jump. This scholar really holds a grudge. Ping'an Square, Chen's house. Chen Mu sat in front of the square table in the living room and remained silent, with a gloomy expression on his face. First, he was sent to block the door by Painter Yan. If it wasn't for Liu Zayata's arrival in time, a brutal beating would have been inevitable. Then he was arrested by the county government and involved in the massacre. Although he has been released now, there is no guarantee that he will not be arrested again in the future. If the major case of annihilation cannot be detected, the county government will definitely find a scapegoat for its political achievements. I, a poor scholar involved in the case, is the best candidate. I can't help myself. Chen Mu sighed. What happened today gave him a clear understanding. This is no longer the stable and prosperous country of the previous life, but a chaotic ancient world. He has to learn to protect himself. It's not possible to practice martial arts in a short period of time, but you have to find something to defend yourself. Chen Mu immediately thought of lime powder. Yu reading www.yuyugonshu.com. This thing is cheap and large, and it can build miracles by surprise. He made up his mind to prepare it for himself later. You also have to have some power. He didn't know anything about the martial arts of this world, and he didn't dare to practice randomly, so he could only read through his past life memories. In the past life, the information exploded, and all kinds of fighting techniques were known a little, but they were not systematic. After thinking about it for a long time, a vague memory came to mind. He seems to have seen a training method on the natural gate locust stone. Locust stones are small stones that can be seen everywhere. It is easy to obtain materials and simple to practice. Gradually improve the accuracy and strike force, and the power will naturally increase. Chen Mu immediately came to the yard to collect rubble. Then put the wash basin against the wall. 5 steps away, he threw stones into the wooden basin. All the more than 20 stones in his hand were thrown into the wooden basin. Chen Mu picked up the stones and stepped back to a place 6 steps away from the wooden basin to continue throwing them. When he started throwing at a distance of 8 meters, a stone finally fell outside the wooden basin. Chen Mu did not continue to increase the distance, but practiced hard at the current position. When I kept throwing it until my arm became sore and the strength weakened, a feeling suddenly appeared in my heart. The throwing technique was adjusted subconsciously, and the movement suddenly became a little more effortless and light. Chen Mu thought for a moment. A grey wall emerges. Writing, 1043/10000/second order, drawing, 157/10000/second order, throwing, 26/10000/first order. Chen Mu took a deep breath. Next is the part he is familiar with. Let's practice. Next to the well, Chen Mu sat on a bamboo bench. Soak a towel with cold well water and apply ice to your arms. The first time I practiced too hard, my arms were sore and sore. He dared not continue to practice. The medical level of this ancient world is not high, it is really useless, and it is not easy to cure. The cold well water irritated the skin. Chen Mu shivered, and couldn't help thinking of the Wang family. When I went there yesterday, I was still sighing that the Wang family was rich, and the family business was huge. Unexpectedly, the immediate blood relatives would disappear in one night. It was possible to destroy the Wang family man clan without a sound, but I don't know where the bandits came from. It must be someone like Liu Zayata who can rise and fall. With such a small arm and calf touching me, I guess I don't know how to die. You must find a way to learn martial arts. Chen Mu secretly made up his mind, make money first. If you have money to open the way, everything is easy to say. It's a pity that money is not easy to earn. Chen Mu couldn't help sighing. After retreating for a month and a half, I finally developed a second-order drawing skill. I thought I could turn the salted fish over. As a result, on the first day, Painter Yan was stared at. I just want to earn some money honestly, why is it so difficult? That Painter Yan is also abominable, he even wanted to let people abolish my hands. Although the Miao Huafeng was blocked a little by the Wang family's annihilation case. But it's hard to say what the effect will be. That's the only way to get here. Chen Mu sighed. He was just a poor scholar, with no relatives and no reason, how could he dare to oppose a local snake like Yan Huashi? You can't go to Anlifeng. Chen Mu thought sullenly. I have to think of another way to make money. Qingshan County Government Office. Painter Yan walked out of the gate of the county government office with a livid face. I feel sorry for the 100 taels of silver I lost just now. I don't know what kind of style the county magistrate is taking. How could he be an old man with no power to destroy Wang's family? This kind of greedy and unrestrained generation, I see how long he can be mad. Yan Painter snorted angrily. Be quiet, Mr. Yan. A middle-aged man next to him immediately persuaded in a low voice, this is at the Yamen gate. He dares to do it, but he is afraid of me saying it. The middle-aged man smiled bitterly, I'm afraid that they will hold on to the case and deceive us again. Painter Yan's face immediately flushed red. These greedy Yamen really did it. Painter Yan snorted coldly, and walked quickly with his head down. The middle-aged man had to shake his head and smile bitterly to keep up. The big family of the Wang family was slaughtered overnight. Such a big case involves a lot of people. If we can cut off contact with this big case, we can save money and avoid disaster. The middle-aged man comforted. Only then did Painter Yan nodded, admitting that he was unlucky. I don't know how a case of annihilation would involve these painters. How to remove paint? Who knows? The more I think about it, the more depressed the artist becomes. If you let him know who is behind the trouble, make sure the other party looks good. The two chatted for a while about the Wang family annihilation case. Guess which gangster did it? There are so many housekeepers in the Wang family that they can't stop them. At this moment, the lights are on. If it was before, Master Yan would definitely go to Anlifeng to play. Today, I lost 100 taels of silver, and my heart hurts with blood. I pinched the silver pieces left in my sleeves, so I don't even have the heart to have fun. After separating from the middle-aged, Painter Yan took advantage of the afterglow of the sunset to wander home. As soon as he turned into a street, a sack fell from the sky, and he was caught in it. Before he could open his mouth to apologize and call for help. Woo! There was a sound of a wooden stick cutting through the air. Bang bang bang! Ooh! Before he could resist a few times, he only felt a pain in his neck, and he passed out as soon as he rolled his eyes. Dongshi, a vegetable market. Zheng Tu, give me 10 caddies of pork belly, and then give me a piece of ham and bacon. Chen Mu stood in front of a meat and said. Scholar, have you made a fortune? Zheng Tu's face was full of fat and he laughed while cutting the meat. You can't compare to Zheng Tu, I just made a small profit and barely managed to eat meat. Chen Mu said with a smile, feeling quite happy. His arms were sore, he couldn't continue to practice locust stones. I have nothing to do to wander around the yamen. I want to see if the painters of Miao Huafeng were really arrested. As a result, I saw the figure of Yan Painter. Chen Mu felt that the enemy should be resolved rather than knotted, so he wanted to keep up with each other and have a chat with each other alone. I finally managed to get to the second-order drawing ability, so I can't waste it like this. After talking well, maybe we can make a fortune together. After all, it's a normal operation to join if you can't beat it. It's just that I don't know who threw a broken sack on the street, and there were a few thick sticks of firewood scattered on the ground. Looking at Painter Yan's back, Chen Mu felt that when old friends meet, they have to give them a surprise. So, he picked up the sack, picked up the stick, and walked forward silently. In the next few days, the atmosphere in Qingshan County became obviously tense. The lazy third-class yamen patrols the streets all day. A large number of greenskin thugs were thrown into prison, just to get a little clue about the destruction of the Wang family. Obviously, that Du County lieutenant was in a hurry. At this time, Chen Mu didn't dare to hang out outside, so he had to stay behind closed doors. He eats meat and trains locust stones every day. With the broken silver gift from the Painter Yan, even if you eat meat every day, you can support consumption. With the improvement of locust stone proficiency, Chen Mu found that not only did the throwing accuracy improve, but the strength was also gradually increasing. The most obvious change is that he actually saw obvious muscle lines on his arms. It used to be a thin pork rib, but now it has grown muscles. The improvement of proficiency is not just about improving skills. Chen Mu squeezed the hard forearm muscles with a look of joy. With a thought, a grey wall emerges. Writing, 1043/10000/second order, drawing, 157/10000/second order, throwing, 3229/10000/first order, this is only the first order. If it reaches the second order of qualitative changes. Chen Mu's heart suddenly became hot. I still underestimate the grey walls. The strength of seeing and seeing has grown, making him addicted to practice every day and can't stop. Until someone knocked on his door. Lu Zayatu. Chen Mu's scalp tightened. Why did you find me again? You don't really want to arrest me as a scapegoat. The county government found clues about the thief and wants you to draw a wanted portrait. Lu Zayatu explained with a smile. Chen Mu breathed a sigh of relief. He turned around and closed the door, locked it, and followed Lu Chata towards the county government office. Lu Zayatu, how did the county government find the thief? Chen Mu asked curiously. Lu Zayatu glanced at Chen Mu strangely. Thank you, young Master Chen, for reminding me. Miao Huafeng provided a formula for removing the paint. This allowed us to target the pharmacy in the city. Only then did we find the trace of the gangster. At the time, he thought that Chen Mu was trying to get revenge on Miao Huafeng with the help of the yamen. Unexpectedly, Miao Huafeng really provided key clues. Lu Zayatu felt a little guilty, he had wronged a good person. Chen Mu was stunned. Does Miao Huafeng really have a formula? I just want to block them. How did it become a key clue? Immediately, he thought of another key question. Since the formula provided by Miao Huafeng is useful, it means that the formula is true. Then the other party's formula and his own formula are the same version? Proficiency Grey Wall, can you steal other people's recipes?